Welcome to Gate Crashers, a podcast dedicated to kicking open the door to your next favorite thing. Our mission, our creed, and our code is this: to make all things more approachable and accessible to everyone. We want you to find a universe that you'll fall in love with. We are close to 4 years of making this podcast, so writing intros for guests has become like second nature to me, but writing today's was one of those, holy shit, how do I introduce this person scenarios. Today I'm joined by the legendary writer of so many DC comics such as Kingdom Come, one of the greatest runs of the Flash period, one of my favorite comics of all time, Justice League Year One, and literally countless more. His new series, Batman and Superman's World's Finest, is on sale now. It's incredible. Please pick it up. And Batman vs. Robin is on sale September 13th. I cannot believe I get to say this, but today our guest is Mark Waid. How are you?
Good, sir. How are you today?
I'm fantastic. This is one of those moments where I get to talk one of the most legendary comic writers of all time. So, kind of cool.
You're right. It is very cool. I'm kidding.
I love that energy.
Very nice. It's
I wish that was real. You're like, hey, yeah, no big deal. It's just me. So I don't know if DC debriefed you at all and how I'm kind of a hard-hitting journalist. I always start my interviews off with a pretty heavy one, so I hope you're ready.
Yeah, I'm braced. Okay.
What's your favorite sandwich?
No one else has answered this question the same way, I guarantee. My favorite sandwich is apples and Miracle Whip on bread.
What?
Hand to God, that is my favorite sandwich.
What? So,
yeah.
I know bananas and mayo is a sandwich people eat in the South, but apples and Miracle Whip specifically?
My hand to God, I'm not making this up.
Can I ask the origins of that? Like, is it something your family does? It's
it's not something I accidentally stumbled onto because no one would do that on purpose. But no, just a hand-me-down from my Southern heritage family. We use Miracle Whip a lot in the South, like a lot.
Huh. My girlfriend's from North Carolina. She's a big Duke's fan, Duke's Mayo.
Yeah. But, yeah. Deep South, though.
Yeah. I'm so curious. What kind of apples do you use on it? You've blown my brain completely out of my head right now.
I mean, really, Macintosh or Granny Smith work. I mean, something tart to offset the sweetness of the Miracle Whip often works. But I can work with pretty much any kind of apple other than the gross red delicious.
I'm gonna have to go to the grocery store this weekend and pick up some apples because I have to eat it because I want to know. So sorry, I'm literally caught so off guard. You were right. No one has ever answered anything even near that. That's incredible.
Just while we're on the subject, second choice, peanut butter and banana. But the trick to eating peanut butter and banana that makes it so much easier to do is you eat it on a hot dog bun.
So you're not slicing the banana, you're just putting that thing straight in there?
Lay it down on the hot dog bun, boom, you're done.
It's like a fruit hot dog. It means it's healthy.
That's my life hack for how to make a banana and peanut butter sandwich.
Wow,
you're blown away. I get it. I know.
This is none of my questions can match that energy of what I just got there. So you've been away from the DC universe for nearly a decade now. Mm-hmm. Coming back, writing in it. Are there any new elements or characters that have been introduced since you left that you're excited to work with?
Oh, sure. I mean, a ton of them. I think that, Damian was introduced before I left, but being able to play with him is great in his supporting cast, Flatline. Connor Hawke has been around. I'm trying to think who else is in the last 10 years who I've really been excited about. Because they're showing up in the next big thing. You put me on the spot, but I'm here to tell you that there's a lot of fun ones. There's some that are more interesting to me than the ones that were created, while I was there.
I like that. I'm excited. I saw Flatline on the cover and I was like very excited that after Damian's run that she's going to stick around because you know how sometimes characters get introduced and they kind of fall off after the writer leaves. But
I will warn you, it's a symbolic cover, which means that she's not going to get a huge amount of play because it's she's not the main draw here.
Yeah.
But I like her too.
Before we get into Batman v Robin, I want to talk about World's Finest because I got to read all of it the other day. For you as a writer, what about the friendship between Bruce and Clark makes it unique compared to other superhero friendships?
Well, for one, it goes back to the earliest days of both those gentlemen, but it's just by a lot of people's metric, they shouldn't be friends because they're so opposite. I disagree. And I think what makes their friendship interesting, and I said this in Kingdom Come, is that the one thing they have in common is that when you scratch the surface, what you get is somebody who doesn't want to see other people die. That's it. And that's true of most superheroes, but with these two in particular, that is a guiding principle. Now,
it's no secret that there's been many stories told about the Dark Knight and the Big Blue Boy Scout. Mm-hmm. You telling one of the biggest. When you were planning this series, was there anything that was important to you that you wanted to include to make this series stand out from the past books about them?
Yes, Robin, Dick Grayson. That he's the third member of the team, and having him be in the book as an equal player has made all the difference. It's he's the one who can wisecrack. He's the one who can tell jokes. He's the one who has sort of a wide-eyed wonder, even after he's been around for a while, as he has in DC continuity by that time. There's still stuff that he sees for the first time that makes his eyes go big and would make Batman's eyes go big in surprise also, except that that's not in Batman's character. So I kind of have a character who can be surprised.
I fully agree. I was reading the issues of the Doom Patrol, and Robin made an offhand comment about a time machine. Yeah. And Negative Dan was like, really? And the panel made me laugh so hard. My girlfriend came in the room. She's like, what was so funny? And I made her look at it, and she goes, well, okay.
Right.
Now, I do want to follow up on that because the series is set during the time when Dick is Robin, so it's not current.
Correct.
What made you want to start the series closer to the start of these heroes' career? Is it that wonder?
It's the wonder. It's the chance to pull in a bunch of things that they haven't seen before at that period in their history. Also, was part of the remit of the series from DC, which is, we have a bunch of Batman books, we have a bunch of Superman books. How about doing one that is classic versions of the characters that everybody knows, and being able to engineer that so I don't have to account in every issue for current continuity. I don't have to, Superman's off planet. Well, what do I do with World's Finest then? Batman is, presumed dead for 4 months. What do I do with World's Finest? So it sets it apart that way, but it's still very much a part of DC continuity, as we've seen with World's Finest leading directly into Batman versus Robin.
Now, the series has an almost adventurous, pulp feeling to it. That everything, there are large stakes, but it's always a fun time.
Yeah.
How would you describe the tone of the book?
I would, I don't want to say fun, because that's death. That's death to a bunch of readers. They will hear fun and they will turn their backs away. But it is more of a classic adventure story. It's also a discovery. I think that's part of the theme of the book and the feel of the book, which is that, you're discovering a bunch of stuff about the DC universe that you didn't know before as a reader. So there's a sense of wonder to it, which I try to communicate. I mean, basically, what I've done my entire career is take these characters that you maybe don't know as well as you should, and kind of shine them up and show you why I love them. And in doing so, with any kind of luck, that will make you go, oh, now I understand this character.
So before we get deeper into the Batman and Robin side, I just have to thank you for including the Doom Patrol, because I love them, and getting to see Mora draw them and Bellaire color them was a dream come true.
Oh yeah.
What made you include them? Why do you think those characters are so interesting?
Backing up, the question you almost asked was, why did I put them in there? And the answer is because we've never seen that before. We've never seen Superman interact with the Doom Patrol of that makeup. We have not seen Batman interact with the Doom Patrol. And that's part of the idea going forward with each successive story arc is finding things that Superman and Batman that we know in the DC universe that Superman and Batman have never dealt with. And I can't give more than that, but there are examples of characters that are well known that have never met Superman and Batman that I think would be good story points. Also, the reason that I think they're awesome characters is not just the weirdness, but the sense of hope almost with them, the sense of not ever wanting to, not being capable of being defeated. They never give up. I mean, here's Robot Man was, his body was destroyed in a racing accident. Larry Trainor went up in the, in the stratosphere and got hit by radiation. And yet all of these people could easily just hide in a closet for the rest of their lives because they are, as they say, freaks, as they put it, and they choose not to. And I think that is a really good argument for, embracing who you are and what you are and not being afraid of showing who you are and what you are.
I love that. That's why I think the characters have stood out so since the show, it's been such a big thing to see them, like every day people know them. So it's very cool to see them back in the comics in such a big series.
That show is so awesome, by the way.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
It's unlike anything else out there too.
Yeah.
Now, Batman vs. Robin comes out on the kind of the heels of Shadow War, which had Damian, Bruce, Talia, Deathstroke, the death of Ra's al Ghul. All of these things happening that are putting Bruce and Damian at odds.
Mm-hmm.
Is your series going to be following up on threads from that series?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. What is, sort of really nailing down what Talia's place in these universe is at this point, nailing down the sort of back and forth relationship between Damian and Bruce, that they seem to have put their differences aside, but there's always stuff percolating. I mean, never forget that Damian was brought up from get-go to believe that he was the rightful heir to the Batman mantle, not this Bruce Wayne guy. And he loves Bruce. He understands Bruce at this point. He doesn't consciously feel that way, but stuff that is buried, sometimes burbles back up, especially when you are being mind controlled by an evil demon from another dimension.
So how do you approach writing the best Robin, Damian, differently than you would be writing someone like Dick?
Okay, first off,
try to get that one under the radar.
Let's try to slip that in.
That's my boy.
I love Damian. I think he is an awesome Robin. But I would not award him the first trophy personally without at least being a tie with.
Who's yours?
Oh, come on, it's Dick. Come on.
Yeah. Well, Dick raised the kid. I'll throw Bruce under the bus on that one. I think Dick is a better mentor for Damian than Bruce was, but that's another topic.
Yeah. All right. So, what was the question?
How do you approach writing Damian versus how you would write someone like Dick? What do you think sets him apart from the other Robins?
There's two things. I mean, there is an arrogance to him that does not always have to be a negative quality. There's that also gets expressed a lot of times. It's just his confidence and his. I don't think Damian ever looks at a problem and goes, "Oh my God, I don't know what to do." He always has a plan. He always knows. And it may not work, but I mean, he goes into every fight expecting to win without hesitation. I also think there is, in his language and the way he speaks, in his voice, I think there is a little more formality, a little more, he uses, $20 words a little more often than the other Robins did. I think he's just, if you gave IQ tests to all the Robins, I mean, Damian by a landslide. Damian is a smart kid.
I love that. As we find Damian now, do you still think there's a lot of inner turmoil for him between the Ghoul legacy versus the Wayne legacy? Or is it more he's come to terms with them?
To a large degree, he's come to terms with this, but there are two things to bear in mind. First off, as I say, being mind controlled by a demon from not another dimension, ancient China, my mistake. And also, I mean, he's of an age where, look, your hormones are bouncing all over the map. And, anyone who was ever a teenager can tell you that from day to day, your relationships and your feelings towards your parents or parental figures can morph back and forth, because that's just part of, that's part of growing up. And
you've mentioned this demon quite a few times, and I have not pronounced his name aloud yet, so correct me if I'm wrong, but the Devil Neza? Neza?
Yeah.
What was the inspiration behind the character?
Looking for something that Batman and Superman could fight together is always a challenge, trying to come up with that menace. And certainly having somebody who was a world beater in that first World's Finest arc was a gimme, because you don't want to start with Batman and Robin versus Captain Boomerang. That's not a first issue get. So I just went back to, ancient Chinese mythology. I went back through ancient Sumerian, ancient Babylonian, looking for gods and godlike figures, and the whole mythology in ancient China about the Monkey King and the Devil Neza, who in our world, is an actual mythological figure, and plucking him out of a point in history in which he was a bad guy, because in original Chinese mythology, he sort of kind of went back and forth, which you'll see some of in the upcoming series. But I work very closely with Jin Yang to, make sure that it was respectful and make sure that it was reflective of actual Chinese mythology. And he just turned out to be a great villain. He's regardless of whether he's in World's Finest or not, if you want to read about that character, he's an awesome character to read about.
Interesting. I'll be honest, I had no idea he was something from mythology.
Surprise.
So we'll have to look into it. Got him. So we often see series where heroes come to clashes with one another, but this is one about a father and son. How do you handle a more complex dynamic like that, even if he is being mind controlled?
Well, that is the part that certainly makes it unique. It's about it stirs up a bunch of stuff, right? I mean, it stirs up an emotional conflict, because that's the most important part, the most interesting part. I mean, watching Batman and Robin punch each other is something you get plenty of. But honestly, what drives the story is not, hey, who's going to out punch the other one? It is, how is Bruce dealing with this? This is the first time he's ever had to really go up against Damian in this capacity. This is a chance for, chance is not the right word. An opportunity is not exactly the right word either, but it is a position in which Bruce can look at things and go, was I the dad I needed to be? Especially because Damian is not the only Robin who will show up in this series. So there's a long sequence where Bruce has to ask himself a lot of different questions about a lot of different Robins and how he handled each one, and is he accountable for where they are now.
Damn, I am so excited for that. Because my next question is, with big titles like this, we usually get a ton of punching, but you already answered this part of the question, is there's going to be these emotional moments. How do you, as a writer, balance those two things? What, for you, is it more important to have these emotional moments to drive the fighting, or is it a balance of both? By a hair, it's more important to have the emotional moments that drive the fighting, because if you don't have that, then it really is just sort of soulless punching back and forth. Mm-hmm. The actual punching back and forth is not always my favorite part to write, although I found some really fun things to do with the two of them in combat. So, but the more interesting part to me is always just delving into the heart of it and what is motivating these characters to go up against each other. So this battle itself has kind of been festering for a long time, even since we've met Damian. what are you most excited for readers to see about the series without spoilers?
I'm very excited for readers to hear an argument against Robins as a whole that I don't think we've heard before. I'm very interested in these readers meeting some of the older magical characters that perhaps they weren't as familiar with that I think are pretty cool, like Jinx or Tanarak or Black Alice or some of these characters that have been around for a while that they may not be as familiar to modern readers. That's exciting for me.
We're getting some heavy hitter magic characters in this then.
There is a place in this story. I don't want to promise that every single magic user in the DC universe is going to be there, because then there will be someone I will forget. And if I forget them, if I can forget them, then there's no hope. But a lot of them are players. They are not huge players, because this is not it's not a story about infantry. It's a story about generals. And so it's a story about Bruce and Damian, and everything else is, all the other characters other than the villains are sort of second, taking second billing in this.
I'm so excited for people to read this. I got to read issue 1, and I'm so excited to see Bruce have to deal with some of the stuff that has happened. So the series is on sale September 13th. Mark, thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
Where can people find you and your other work?
Let's see. I am at Waid Mark on Instagram. I am on Twitter as Mark Waid. I am on Facebook for all of you who are 60 and above. There as well. You can find me there, and you can find my work in finer comic stores everywhere.
You can find us at gatecrashers.fan and on all social media at gatecrasherspod. Mark, thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
The Gatecrashers.